The United Arab Emirates is a valued U.S. strategic partner and an important provider of regional security. It's committed to working with the U.S., NATO, and other interested stakeholders against the common threat from Iran. Earlier this week, I was in the UAE for an International Air Chiefs Conference and the Dubai Air Show. And here's my report. Arab commanders and Western partners across the Middle East and around the world gathered this week in the UAE for the 8th edition of the Dubai International Air Chiefs Conference. The biannual event brings air power professionals together with government leaders and defense executives to assess new combat capabilities and operational concepts for more effectively prosecuting coalition war.
It's important to continue that. I think we all recognize that together we're stronger, and so collectively as we do that, we're all coming to that understanding. So I think we're continuing to build and deepen these relationships.
With skies in this region increasingly crowded from coalition operations against the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, a parallel war being waged by the Russian, Syrian, Iranian axis in Syria, and the Saudi-led war in Yemen, this year's event focused on networked warfare, precision targeting, and the benefits to come from the star of this show, Lockheed Martin's 5th-generation F-35 stealth fighter. About 400 high-ranking representatives from 40 countries were here, many of them exposed for the first time to how the U.S. and NATO are integrating so-called 5th-generation capabilities into their fighting forces. But perhaps more important than who was here is who was not. Qatar, a prize partner in the eyes of the U.S. and Western coalition partners, has been boycotted due to the ongoing feud among Sunni Gulf states. Lebanon, a regular participant in these events, is not here due to the disarray in the country and the fact that its prime minister is in exile in the Saudi capital. Shiite Iran and Syria have never been invited to participate in such events. And then there's Israel, the 600-pound elephant in the room. As the regional actor most experienced in the kind of networked so-called sensor-to-shooter targeting operations discussed here in Dubai, there was considerable privately expressed interest in the Israel Air Force, the only Mideast state to fly the F-35. The Pentagon is now seriously considering UAE requests for the new stealth fighter that until now has been off-limits to the rest of the region, given concerns about how it could affect Israel's qualitative military edge. But this UAE Defense Ministry official assured Vago Muradian of the Defense and Aerospace Report that Israel has nothing to fear from Abu Dhabi's acquisition of F-35 or other advanced technologies displayed here all week by leading arm firms at the Dubai Air Show.
I don't think we are a threat to Israel, nor we think Israel is a threat on UAE. We have difference in solving an issue, but does not reach to a point where we will go into a war against Israel, because we understand that, like we are allies of the United States, Israel is another ally of the United States.
And now for our Hot Topic segment, we asked participants at the Dubai conference if they expected the Trump administration to assume a more assertive role in this region than his predecessor, now that most Sunni states are flexing their muscles against Shiite Iran. Let's hear their responses.
Conference in this meeting is so important as we build relationships. These relationships that help us in times of need and against common threats and common adversaries. So the more that we can deepen these relationships, we build this partnership, the more we exercise, train, operate together, the better and stronger we're going to be against common threats.
Have their hands and their fingers into everything. The countries in the region must continue to come together in a much more aggressive, assertive way to check the Iranian threat that's pervasive in the region today. The region needs to have coordination and cooperation moving forward, and I think 2018 will be marked by that, because the Iranian threat is just too grave.
question that that our current administration in the U.S., as well as our friends here in the region, whether it's Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, GCC in general, understand the very significant threat that Iran is posing to peace and stability in the entire region. I think we are closer than we've been in some time.
Administrations take a while to reach their stride. Words matter, perceptions matter. So let me give you an example of words matter. When in the previous administration we talked about pivot toward Asia, there were lots of misperceptions. There were leaders in other parts of the world said, does that mean the U.S. doesn't care about us? Well, it's a global world. We are interconnected.